With the frame now prepared, it is time to start assembling the rest of the cabinet. Now at our shop, we added the bottom first and then the sides. We also placed the toe kick and then built in the shelf. And we finished with the back of the cabinet. So that's the same steps that we're going to repeat here as well. So let's talk a little bit about the bottom piece. We already know that the bottom wood piece is going to be cut from a 1/2 inch thick plywood board and that it will be flush with the top of the rail on the bottom. The next measurement that we can go ahead and determine is the width of the bottom piece by measuring the distance between the two dado cuts here in SketchUp. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use the measuring tape tool. We're going to go to the inside part of that dado cut and kind of follow all the way over to the other dado cut right here on the inside as well. And so that's telling us it's 2 foot 10.5 inches. So that's the size of board that we need to cut out of the 1/2 inch plywood. And so the last measurement we need is actually how deep this bottom piece is going to be. So we're going to need to do a little more planning. So let's go back to AutoCAD to kind of help us plan this out. So here we are in AutoCAD, and this is the drawing that we did. I'm going to go ahead and copy this red line over. And we're going to create kind of like a side view of this cabinet to help us kind of determine what the depth needs to be. Now this right here represents the bottom of the frame, and this right here represents the top of the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on E3, grab the line command, and I'm going to kind of move this over. I'm going to copy it from a base point right here and bring it up to the top. And if I draw a line between the two, that's going to represent the front of the face on a side profile. So remember that the frame itself is 1 inch thick, so we're going to go ahead and draw that in. So 1 inch here, come all the way up, hover, get that extension line, and then we're going to draw that next line from right to left. So that's representing the frame of the cabinet on the side view. Now all cabinets from the very front of the frame to the very back side of the back are always 2 feet. Kitchen cabinets, vanities, it really doesn't matter. The typical size and depth of a cabinet from the front of the face to the back side of the back piece is always 2 feet. So I'm going to take the offset command. I'm going to type 2 apostrophe for 2 feet, enter, grab the front, and make sure that I offset to the back. So that is how thick the cabinet actually will be. Now remember that the back is always going to have some kind of thickness. Some cabinet companies actually don't put backs on their cabinets, but the more posh cabinets, like the higher quality ones, do. Most people don't want to see the drywall. It doesn't really protect the drywall very well if you don't have a back to your cabinet. Sink cabinets can be the only exception to that rule, just because you need to have access to the drywall directly from inside the cabinet for plumbing purposes. But our cabinet is going to have a 1/2 inch back. So I'm going to take the offset command and I'm going to offset this 0.5 inches. And I'm going to click on this line and go and offset to the left. Always make sure it's the left. And if you need to double check what that measurement is, I'm going to use the measure tool, but I'm going to use the distance instead of the quick. So here's distance from the front of the cabinet to the back of the cabinet should be 2 feet, and yes indeed it is. So now I can look at the inside and determine what the actual depth of the piece of wood is that I need to cut. So remember that it's going to go flush to the frame, and it's going to come back 1 foot and 10 inches and a half. 1 foot 10 and a half. Don't forget that half. That will be a very important thing. So I'm just drawing a line to kind of represent that, but I'm going to also use the offset command 0.5. Remember that there's a little cleat underneath here, and you kind of have to like play with that a little bit, it allowed a 1/2 inch space right here. So if I hover my mouse over that original elevation right here at this corner and come down 0.5 inches and come over here, that is actually where the cleat's going to be, and that was 0.25 and down 0.5 inches. So it's very small, but it's just enough that you can get like a staple gun or something to help adhere the bottom to it. So that's where the cleat lives, and that's how you determine where that is, and that is also how you can determine where the bottom is going to rest. So see how that just sits right on top of there? And that little cleat that we designed, and remember that we're looking at this from the side, and remember that that cleat is going back into space. So we're actually going to take this and put a little X through it, and that just indicates that this piece actually extends backwards from where we're viewing it. Technically speaking, we could do the same thing for this piece as well, but for the most part we don't. We only do it for like small little support pieces like this. So no X's in this part, although technically we could. And then typically what happens, at least what we did at our company, is the back would actually go all the way down to the ground. And then there would be a 2 inch by 4 inch support piece in the back. So just to kind of demonstrate that, it'll come out 2 inches and down. I don't think I did that right. Let's try that one more time. Hover, extend, 2, enter. There we go. That's kind of big actually. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably a 1 inch. That's way too big. All right, 1 inch. I'm remembering, everybody. I'm remembering. It's been a long time since I've assembled a cabinet. 1 inch. That looks much better. So this is just to help support the back and also to help support the bottom of the cabinet up here, because if we don't have supports, what tends to happen is if we're stapling the bottom into the back, or the back into the bottom essentially, that little staple sure can take a lot of pressure from all the pots and pans that you put inside your cabinet. So having some extra support is very helpful. You're going to see how we also assemble the toe kick here momentarily. So we'll come back to this, but I just wanted to show you exactly how the bottom gets put on, and then you'll also see how the toe kick gets assembled as well. All right, we're going back to SketchUp. Now that we have all that information, and now we're going to create the actual bottom piece that we're going to put into here. So, rectangle tool, I'm going to draw it out again. Let's kind of do it in the back so that you understand how this whole process works. Down in the dimensions, go ahead and type 2 foot 10.5 inches, comma, space, 1 apostrophe 10.5 inches, enter. And then again, this is going to be a 1/2 inch piece, so let's use that push-pull tool and let's bring that up 0.5 inches. So this is plywood, or it could be particle board. The better quality cabinets use plywood instead. Let's go ahead and triple click on this, make it a group so that nothing sticks to it accidentally. And then let's go ahead and place this up on top of that cleat. So I'm going to use the move command. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to grab it. Let's grab it from the bottom front corner. And that way we can put it right onto the cleat itself to make sure that it's at least there. And then we're going to move it so that it's flush with this dado. And if we did this right, we should come over here and see how it's flush with this dado. Does that make sense, everybody? We're trying not to get in the way of what the sides are going to fit into. You don't want it to go over the dado cuts that we made, but you want them to fit very snugly and perfectly so that we have a nice square cabinet, and there's no holes for little spiders to kind of like run around and then come up into your cabinets. It's never cool to have spiders in your cabinets. You know how I feel about spiders. Next, we're going to move on to adding the sides.